I was introduced to comics by my mother. She taught me how to read with comic books. So as early as I can remember, I had a comic book in my hand. The first comic I can remember her reading to me was from 1964. I was 2. It's still one of my favorite books, a copy of Adventure. It featured the Legion of Superheroes. And the first one I remember buying was 1967, 66 or 67, a copy of Batman. I've been to San Diego. I grew up going to the Chicago Comic-Con. That was when I was a kid. I think the first time I went was either 12 or 13. We had to be driven there. We lived too far away. Chicago is a big city. I mean, it's a really big city. And we were driven there, and then after that we took the bus, and the bus ride was a couple hours. It was not a convenient trip, even though we were all in the same city. And back then there were only 2 conventions, San Diego and Chicago. So I grew up with a big convention. And then when I moved to Arizona, we went to San Diego, and that's an even bigger convention. I kind of like the smaller conventions because you can really get one-on-one with people, and you see the vendors are friendly, and they're chatting and laughing with each other. And in organizing the convention, I found that they would come up and say, "Hey, can I be next to Kimmy over at Weganza? She's great, and I love being with her." And "Oh, I want to be next to Rob." And "Oh man, Jay Gonzo's here too. Oh man, all the artists are here. Great, we're going to hang out." And it's that spirit of community that I think the smaller conventions have, and I like it. And it's not impersonal. It's familial.
Well, I grew up in Southern California. I was born in a town called Cypress. It's just outside of LA, just inside Orange County, but I always tell people it's like I want you to think about that idea of Orange County, like the mansions and the beaches and stuff. I'm literally as far from that as you can get and still be in the same county. My comic was, it was in response to kind of like lucha libre being portrayed poorly in American pop culture. Like whenever you see a luchador in an American movie, he's like a detective or a hitman or a bodyguard. And I was like, and they kind of, these kind of a punchline, and kind of on a broader spectrum, like whenever you see like Latinos portrayed in American pop culture, they're kind of a punchline. Like even Ant-Man with its representation is cool that there's a Latino in there, but he's kind of slow-witted, he's kind of dumb. And there's like a lot of that, and in my head, I just thought that someone needs to get lucha libre right, they need to get Latino culture right. I also love what comic books used to be. I love like that 60s Marvel house style that we talked about. I love the pulpy paper. I love the smell of the ink on the paper. I love the mist registration and the kind of like the little artistic touches that are like an affect of the processes of the time that have kind of gotten like, ironed out of the sleek, shiny comics of today. And they were all part of the experience when I was a kid, and I wanted to kind of get back to that. So my comic is basically a love letter to like old lucha libre, it's a love letter to old comics, it's a love letter to like my Latino culture, just like all the things that I love, I want to be able to fold in. Like it all worked well with the story that I could do, so I could just fold it all into one big package. That's the inspiration for my comic. It's weird, the intangible like love of the art form people can feel coming off of the page, and that's the thing ultimately that you're selling is your enthusiasm. I don't really do these things, I'm not looking at these things as like a business venture for the most part. I'm not like, looking to make a ton of money, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill at that con, I'm gonna get a bunch of money there. I just look at it as an opportunity to spread like my comic books around out into the world. I just want people reading books. I'd like them to read mine, but I also like them to be enthusiastic about cons and about the art form as well.
The thing I most admire about the pop culture community, inclusiveness. By far and away, it's the #1 thing. Comic books have been LGBT friendly forever. It's the one place where gay, straight, trans, bi have always gotten together because it's a love of the medium, not about personal identity. The same goes for the races. Spider-Man, hugely popular in the African-American community, Batman as well. Black Panther, wildly popular within the white community. It's just a great place for everybody to come together. Man, woman, adult, child, doesn't matter what race, doesn't matter what orientation, doesn't matter what religion. It's just about throwing yourself into the fantasy.
it's literally something for everybody. You know, it's whatever you're into, whatever genre you're into is literally there, like it's all there. And you can just go on this kind of self-discovery through pop culture and through any genre, through any medium, and find something that you love. And I think that's just the most awesome thing. I mean, comic books are related to movies and vice versa, and everything transitioned over to video games and board games and graphic novels, books. Like it's kind of all interconnected, and I love that about the medium. It's just, I think that's the coolest thing. When people think of comic books, they think of Marvel, DC, Spider-Man, Superman, all those guys, but really the mainstream stuff, like those iconic characters, they make up a very small percentage of what's available, what's out there for in the comic book industry, in the comic book world. I grew up reading comics, you know, X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman. I grew up reading all that stuff, and I just love the artwork so much, and I love to draw. My mom said I started drawing when I was like in kindergarten, so it started that early. But I think when I was about my junior year in high school is when I figured that, hey, I think I want to try to be a comic book artist, you know, make a career out of it. Most of the time it's you know, your creativity is there and you want to do characters and you want to do comics, and you want to think about the best way to go about doing it and what's also the most efficient way of going about doing it, because being independent is exactly what it sounds like. You're doing it all on your own steam, so you know, it all has to come from you. My two series that I have a creator on is Hooded Cobra and Succubus. So Hooded Cobra, he is a agent from an ancient secret society called the Den of Serpents, and he's hunting down exiled members, guys that got kicked out of the society. And then for my mature readers and my mature fans and stuff, I have Succubus. She's just like she's a real life succubus, and she has a psychotic sister that's after her, who's also a succubus, and she's after her to try to settle this deep childhood vendetta that they've had since, you know, they were kids. So I would just say, you know, if you can pick up that Batman issue or that new Spider-Man issue, but be sure to grab some indie stuff, because those guys are out there and they're putting out some majorly cool stuff, so like some epic books that you'll never hear of.
I love those independent guys, the guys that are just saying, Russ Kizmierek has, I don't know how many he's done. I think he's on issue 60 of his Arizona stories. He just pumps them out, and it's just fun for him, and you could see it. He's got a smile on his face. I love those kind of comics. It doesn't matter if you're a DC or a Marvel guy. Those are the guys I think we should be supporting, because they're the guys who are doing it purely for love. A lot of people who grew up in my generation and went to comic conventions, when I was younger than you guys going to a convention, the goal was to buy comic books. That's the only reason you went to a convention, was I'm gonna fill in my collection. I'm gonna get Justice League number 62 because I'm missing that, and that's the introduction of the Red Tornado. I'm pretty sure that is. You know, I need to buy that, so I'm gonna go to the convention. Now, it's a little bit of everything. It's gaming, it's cosplay, it's meeting artists, it's buying comic books, it's talking about movies and TV. So some people have an issue with it. They say, oh, it's just people taking photos of cosplayers and it's clogging up the aisles. I'm of the other opinion. I think it's great. Anything that brings more people together and celebrating what they love is a good thing.
I started cosplaying in 2010. I joined a local charity group in Phoenix, and we did events for movie releases and Cub Scouts and different types of local fun things, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Cosplay gives people more than just the booths and the programming. You have something in front of you at all times. It gives people an opportunity to express themselves and dress up and not just go to a convention, but be a part of it. People that you would never think would speak to you or be friends with you are often your best friend. So everyone's welcome. Everyone gets to be a part of something. Even if you don't have a costume, you can be a wrangler or a handler and help some of the people with bigger costumes or take pictures for them. So everyone is important and everyone is involved.
Seeing people that spent a year working on their costume get up on the catwalk and show it off. And I mean show it off. They get into that character. I think it's another way to take that little piece of what you enjoy to another level.
When the cosplay boom first hit, there were people who did very well online, and then conventions started having them out, but they were not extroverts. They were very much introverted, and they would, kind of hide behind their table because they loved building the costumes, and they loved putting them on and doing the photo shoots and putting them out there. But to be in public, interacting with so many people was almost terrifying. And so you have to be comfortable being out there. You have to recognize that people are gonna talk to you.
With comics, it's about doing the right thing, doing good, not because you're supposed to, or not because somebody's telling you to, but because it's the right thing to do. And if it's an action figure that gets that message to a child, perfect. Or to an adult, I'm fine with that. If it's a comic, that's great. If it's a movie, that's terrific too. There's no downside to enjoying the nerd culture. And when I was a kid, that was a bad word. Now it's a good word, and I like that it's a good word. I like that we're all nerds. We've got some room to grow. We've got a few places we can be within this space. I think within 5 years, we should be at about 100 vendors and hopefully adding value to the convention goers' experience, because that's what we want. We want the vendors to be happy, and we want the people that come to the convention to be happy. And if they both are, we've succeeded, and that's the goal. Do we want to get Darth Vader in the shot? How you doing, sir? Good to see you. I got to get you in really close because my mic is right here. So you came to the convention, Mr. Vader. What was your favorite thing? Darth is a quiet man. You don't know the power of the dark side? You don't know the power of the dark side.
Power of the dark side.
Nice, outstanding. That's what this convention is about. It's about just having fun.